Hey guys, Parallel here, and welcome to Star Trek Online. In this video, I am going to be taking a look at Subspace Vortex. Now, this is a science bridge officer ability. It's been out for a little while now. It was actually released as part of the previous lockbox, the Xindi terrestrial lockbox, which was just prior to the current Year of Hell lockbox. Now, just recently, in the recent patch, Cryptic snuck in a little change to this ability, which is actually quite good. Now, previously, this ability right here, Subspace Vortex, was sharing a cooldown with Tychon's Rift and Gravity Well. And that kind of limited its usefulness, honestly, because you had to make a choice between Gravity Well, which is kind of the premier, science bridge officer ability, and has so much, crowd control and useful applications, and that kind of limited its usefulness. But in this recent change, now Subspace Vortex is on its own cooldown. It doesn't share a cooldown with any other science abilities now, which is very, very cool. And with that change, it actually made me want to kind of give it a try here and see how it actually performs. It is actually fairly expensive. I had paid $15 million on the exchange for the rank 3 version here. So if you would like to invest in it, that's how much it costs. You can see here I have it slotted into my this is my main science officer that I use. It is actually the hierarchy officer that you get with the pirate and efficient traits. And so yeah, that's who I'm going to be testing it on. Now, what I'd like to do is actually take this ability out for a spin and see how it does in a few different queues. Maybe start out with a simple Argala Patrol and demo it there, and then do an ISA and see how it performs there as well. Let's take a closer look at the ability here. This is again the rank 3 version. Actually, the numbers will probably be wrong here on ground. Yeah. Why don't we go out into space and take a look at the numbers there, just so we don't get any erroneous numbers showing. So yeah, I'm very excited to test out this ability. Having another exotic damage ability that is off the shared cooldown of Gravity Well is great, because there was honestly a pretty limited selection of other exotic damage abilities that you can use that didn't share a cooldown. So as you can see here, I'm in my Vesta. Now, if you saw my Vesta build video, I'm actually it's a very similar build to that, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail of the build here, but I have made a few changes since then, so I will quickly go through it. And maybe I'll put a link down below in the description as well if you'd like to check out my Vesta exotic damage build. But this is kind of my preferred vessel for testing out exotic damage abilities, so I thought it'd be a perfect fit for Subspace Vortex. Alright, so just quickly going through my gear here, I am using anti-proton dual beam banks up front and a particle emission plasma torpedo. This has not radiation, but the plasma clouds that do exotic damage. So it's a very good torpedo for an exotic damage build. I also have my Iconian 3-piece set here I'm using with the deflector array, the impulse engines, and shields. And I just recently got my shields up to Mark 14. I'm also using the Elite Fleet Plasma Integrated Warp Core for the amp bonus, and also the resistance to weapon power drain. I'm also using a inhibiting secondary deflector with it is a Mark 14 Epic. Let's see, what does it have? Flow caps, particle gens, sensors, and another particle gen, and SA plus damage. Oh yeah, so my sensor analysis has the sensor analysis buff on it, which is really good on this ship that it gets sensor analysis. For my rear weapons, since this is kind of a forward-firing ship, for example, I'm using dual beam banks up front, and also a lot of the science abilities like Gravity Well and Subspace Vortex are forward-firing abilities as well. So I'm with a forward-firing build here. So in the rear, I have 360-degree beam arrays. I've got the kinetic cutting beam, the ancient omnidirectional anti-proton beam, and the omnidirectional crafted version anti-proton beam. All Mark 14. One of them is epic. I'm also using the Temporal Negotiator and Subspace Field Modulator for my devices, and I have the Delta Alliance reinforcements in my inventory. I'm using a Plasmonic Leech and the Constriction Anchor for the exotic damage bonus, which is very significant. I'm also using the Assimilated Module for the Borg 2-piece bonus with the Kinetic Cutting Beam. And one of the changes I've made here is I'm using the new console that you get from, well, it's not a featured episode anymore, but the previous featured episode, Butterfly Effect. This console, oh good, I do have it at Mark 14. Yeah, this console came out with that episode, and it's a very, very good console. I definitely recommend this for, all kinds of builds. You can see here it gives crit chance and crit severity based on your aux power, and since I'm running an Vesta with a science build here, my aux power is going to be very high. It gives me plus 4.8 auxiliary power setting, and then the 23.8 maximum shield capacity. That is very nice. It's a nice little tanking bonus on top of the fact that it gives crit chance and severity. And then the reduced damage to shields by 3%, another nice buff. As you probably saw from my previous video, this ship is actually quite squishy. The build that I use here for exotic damage is actually a pretty squishy build. But since I've upgraded my shield, my Iconian shield to Mark 14, I also got the Mark 14 Epic deflector array in there, and I also got this new console. It's helped out with the survivability a fair amount. It still is much more squishy than some of my cruiser builds, but it at least can hold up a little better now. And in my remaining science slots here, I have the plasma generating weapons consoles. These were recently significantly nerfed. They no longer crit with beam fire at will, and their base damage was also lowered by 25%. So this is a very, very significant hit to this particular build. I'm actually curious to see. I haven't run a parser on this yet, but it'll probably, with that huge nerf to these consoles, will probably hurt the DPS a fair amount. I expect this will probably get a little bit less DPS than my previous video with the Vesta. And then my tactical consoles, I have 4 anti-proton damage vulnerability locators. And for my hangar, I actually just recently got the Yellowstone runabouts. I really like these suckers for the tractor beams. I like having pets that can tractor beam things. It's actually quite a help. They're not the best damage pet out there, but they can take a decent amount of damage, and they have a good utility, which is kind of why I prefer them. I'm not really looking for a lot of damage from my pets. I like that tractor beam. So that is the build. Let's take a look at the stats of the ship here. You can see now with my Mark 14 shields and with that console, with the new temporal console from the last featured episode, now I'm up to 18,500 shields, which is quite good. You can see here that with that console also helps out my crit chance and severity. I'm up to 23% crit chance and 100% crit severity. And you can see, let me just show you another important stat for any exotic damage build, which is my particle gen. My particle gen skills almost up to 250, which is just barely short of 250, which is kind of your goal if you want to max out your, let's go over here to my traits. If you want to max out your particle manipulator trait, you can see it's almost is 49.9% crit instead of 50% crit, which is the max. So it's about as close as you can get without hitting the cap. So you can see the other traits I'm running here. Particle Manipulator is the big one, obviously, for an exotic damage build. But I'm also running Beam Barrage, Accurate, Elusive, Warp Theorist, which also gives, that's for a little more EPS. Conservation of Energy, which gives also exotic damage bonus. I'm running the Photonic Capacitor to reduce the cooldown on Photonic Fleet. Point Blank Shot, for getting up close, does a little extra damage. And then Astrophysicist, which gives a little bit more particle gens, flow caps, and stealth, which is not useful. For my traits, I'm running All Hands on Deck, Emergency Weapons Cycle, Reciprocity, and Emitter Synergy, for a little bit of extra exotic damage. There are other options you could put in here for this third one, but that's what I've been running with. For my reputation traits, I've been running, the main three: Precision for the crit chance, Advanced Targeting Systems for the crit severity, Aux Power Offensive, since I'm running such a high Aux Power. It gives, right now you can see with my current Aux Power level, which is, what is it here? 104. Once my Plasmatic Leech starts going, that will go up to probably about 120. Probably 125 actually, so it'll pretty much cap out. But already it's giving me a 5% damage bonus. This is the Nukara trait, and this is a Category 2 bonus. And since I'm also running a high Aux Power, I also like to run the Aux Power configuration defensive as well. You can see it's giving me 20% kinetic and energy resistances, extra hit points, and extra shield capacity. I really like this trait for survivability. There are other better DPS traits, like if you're just going for a pure DPS build, obviously you can go for the where is it? The armor penetration, right here, enhanced armor penetration. All right, just quickly for my specializations, I'm spec'd out so I can get down to the bottom here of all the space abilities in the intelligence tree. And the pilot tree, I've got up to, rock and roll. I have a few more here, but this is my secondary tree, so I don't get any benefit from those. All right, and then for my bridge officer stations, you can see what I've got here. I'm running 2 Beamfire at Wills, 2 Attack Pattern Betas, and 2 torpedo spreads to get the maximum number of plasma clouds out from my particle emission plasma torpedo. I'm running emergency power to shields and weapons. This is a Drake build, so with 3 damage control engineers, these should be up permanently. And for science, now for my main exotic damage here, you can see I'm running Gravity Well 3 and then Subspace Vortex 3. And this is what I'm going to be focusing on here for this. So now that I'm out here in space, let's take a look at the stats. Let's see, 5 seconds. It's actually, okay, so creates a level 60 Subspace Vortex 3 for 20 seconds and causes 2,900 kinetic damage per second, ignores shields to all foes within 3 kilometers. And you can, one of the tricks with this ability is if you activate it again while the vortex is open, you will teleport to that location, but then the vortex will collapse. And honestly, in my testing so far, I haven't found a very good use for that. I'm using this more as a damage ability, so I want it open for as long as possible. But, there could be some situational uses for teleporting around with it. I just have yet to find a good use for that. So those are going to be my 2 exotic damage abilities there. And then I have Hazard Emitters and Science Team, just for good measure. All right, anything else that I need to show? Skills, I'll just scroll down here. This is a pretty standard build. I actually don't have any skills in projectile weapons. I'm only using that torpedo mostly for the plasma cloud for the exotic damage, which it does do quite a bit. But I do, of course, have particle gens maxed out and flow caps maxed out for my, just to make sure I'm getting the most out of my plasmonic leech. Alright, so that is an update on the build there for my exotic damage Vesta here. So let's head out and let's see how the Subspace Vortex does. Give it a try in Argala here to start out. Now to test this out, or to track how the damage is doing, I'm going to be actually trying out the new STO Combat Meter parser. This was just recently released for it's the updated parser, I think, for the, is it the DPS League? I can't remember now. But they've developed a new parser, and I wanted to give it a try. So far it seems pretty decent, but I haven't used it a whole lot yet. And alright, let's give this a try now. I'm actually going to, I know in a comment in some of my other videos, people had requested that I where is it? In progress, I guess. Yeah, here we go. People had requested to up the difficulty here for doing Argala, because obviously the ships are dying way too fast, so it's hard to actually see all of the abilities. So I'll kick it up to advanced here, and let's do an Argala Patrol and see how Subspace Vortex does. Alright, let's see what we got here this time. Looks like Kazon, I think? Can't really tell. See the plasma clouds there from the particle emission plasma torpedo? Okay, so now for this next part is when I'm going to actually use all of my big abilities here. As soon as I talk to this guy, 4 ships are going to come in, and I'm going to gravity well them all in and use the Subspace Vortex and sensor scan them and torpedo spread them, and we'll just see how this goes. And I guess I'll also use my Alright, let's gravity well them, suck them in, sensor scan them. Let's bring in my photonic fleet. So you can see well, it's hard to see now with all the plasma clouds, but there is actually a vortex inside the gravity well there. So that's the cool thing now with Subspace Vortex. You can actually combine it with gravity well. Oh, there it is. You can see it right there. Let's sensor scan this guy. Let's get that out of the way. Let's get the gravity well going again here. Good, it did suck in the other carrier. Let's get Subspace Vortex on him. This guy's going to be too far away, I think, to get sucked in. Let's get up on these guys here. Now I'm noticing that it does have a slightly longer cooldown than my gravity well. I suppose I should probably wait on my gravity well so I can combine it with the vortex. So to make sure that the enemies kind of stay inside of the range there. He's full climb. Well, he should be getting damage from it. Alright, well I'm going to hold on the rest of my abilities here for the last guy, because he will be coming soon. But so far he's so good. I mean, even on advanced here you can see that when the gravity well and the vortex are out, it's doing really, really good damage to these enemies. Alright, let's buff up here. Let's gravity well him, let's get that in. Let's get vortex on him. There's the vortex, you can see it. And the gravity well's pulling him back in, so it gets sucked into the vortex. And he's down. Finish off these last couple guys here. There we go. So not bad at all. So as you can see, the combination of gravity well with the subspace vortex, it's a deadly combination, and I'm really liking it. It's definitely good for jazzing up your exotic damage build if you're running one. It's yeah, it's a lot of fun. I always like, you know, the more active play style of the exotic damage builds, you know, as compared to just like a cruiser. So I really do enjoy that they added another ability, you know, another exotic damage ability that you can use in conjunction with gravity well, and honestly has a lot of synergy with it, because it's doing constant damage to everything while you're sucking them in with the gravity well. So yeah, I mean, you can see there it's pretty effective. That was on advanced, keep in mind, and it was killing things pretty darn fast, even with the, you know, with all the increased hit points that things get in advanced mode. So I'm so far very happy with it. Let's also give this a try in an ISA here. Oh yeah, today, and this is the Alachi Alert weekend. I forgot about that. I should do that. Well, let's just do an ISA, I guess, for now. I might do an Alachi Alert also. But I will queue up for ISA here, and I may do a quick cut here for when the queue pops. So I'll see you in a moment. Alright guys, here we go. The queue popped, and let's give this a try. This is going to be an ISA with my exotic damage Vesta using Subspace Vortex. This is just a pickup group, so, you know, we'll see how this goes. It can go any number of ways. I don't think I'm going to unload with my abilities quite yet. I kind of want to save my gravity wells and vortexes for when the bundle of spheres... Well, actually, someone put them all in right there. Alright, so this is actually looking like a good team so far. So we definitely took out that first group very fast. I'm going to head up here and take out this cube. And keep an eye, see if anyone takes out, you know, the nanite. Whoa, I'm getting a lot of damage already. Alright, looks like people are taking out the generators. Let's get going here. Someone is bundling up those spheres, so I'm gonna go... Let's finish up this transformer here. Let's get my fleet out. Let's yeah, let's go over here. Let's get these bundled up. Let's use the vortex on them. And let's sensor scan them. They're doing a lot of damage to me. See if I can draw some hits. Oh shoot. I had a feeling that was going to happen. My rock and roll put me right in range right as all their warp core breaches went off. Did I get damaged here? No, it doesn't look like it. Let's see if we can get back into it here. Hopefully didn't lose too much there because I was already going to have to travel over to this side anyway. I'm hitting that generator. Alright, let's take out these generators. And let's get on the transformer. Let's get the sensor sweep going on it. Alright, all these spheres are going to be doing a lot of damage. It's pulling away. Someone did bundle up the spheres already, but I'm going to do the same here with my gravity well, Subspace Vortex. Let's get them all nice and bundled up. No, I probably should have used my science. What's that, the quantum singularity manipulator that really buffs your science abilities for a short time. You don't really want to be tanking both of these guys, that's for sure. Let's get sensor analysis going on the gateway. See if that hits both of them. Nope. That was worth a try. Let's go ahead and blow gravity well and sensor sweep this one. Let's get in. Alright. Let's use the vortex on the cube here. And let's see if we can swing around and get see if we can get some flanking bonuses here. He's going down pretty quick. I don't know if I'll get to use another one or not. I'm going to use one more, that's all I ask. Use this, let's use this, let's use that. And it's up, but he's already dead, dang it. Well, I didn't get my last, vortex out there, but man, that was a good team. But as you can see, being able to combine those two is very effective, especially on those groups of spheres. You group them all up with your gravity well, and throw on your subspace vortex, and it just burns them down. That definitely was GG. That was a very good run. It was a lot of fun. Alright, let's head out here and let's take a look at the parser and see how all the abilities broke down and how much damage the subspace vortex did. Alrighty, let's give me a moment here while I turn on the STO Combat Meter. Okay, you should be seeing it now. Alright, so let me analyze the log here. Alright, and here it is. So this was Infected Space run that I just did. And yeah, looks like I did 41k DPS. That's not bad at all. Actually, that's really good for me. Most of my runs I usually get in the 30ks. So that's really good. I'm very curious to see the breakdown and see what contributed to that. All right, for this one, I believe. So yeah, I am using the STO Combat Meter. This is the new parser that came out, and I'm giving it a try here. I'm not quite as familiar with this one, but yeah, if I hit this player combat analysis button, it brings up another window here, and it gives me the full details. And I'm actually guessing you probably can't see this window because it opened up in another one. Yeah, hold on here a second. Let me get into OBS and get a window capture going here. And bring this up so you can actually see it. Combat analysis reports. Here it is. All right, so you should be seeing that now. So here's the breakdown. The breakdown of all of my damage abilities. Let's see how things went here. So the top one was the particle emission theta radiation. That's the plasma cloud you get from the particle emission torpedoes. That is always one of my top performers in my exotic damage build. You can see here it did 7,600 DPS. That is very, very nice. Definitely recommend this torpedo for your exotic damage builds. Let's see what else here. Dual anti-proton beam banks, fire at will. 5,100 DPS. Dual anti-proton banks, 4,400. Pets did 3,500. Anti-proton beam array, fire at will 2. So these are the rear beam arrays. That did 3,300. Plasma explosions, only 3,300. Now, in the old days, if you look at my old videos before the plasma explosion nerf, that was a much more significant contributor. So you can see it is a little bit less than it was for sure. Anti-proton arrays, these were just my arrays in the back. That was 3,000 DPS. Cutting beam did 2,200. All right, next one is... scrolling is a little bit weird there. Where'd you go? Okay, Subspace Vortex did 1,600 DPS. Not bad at all. You can see right here, it just edged out gravity well. So that's not bad at all for exotic damage abilities. So yeah, you can kind of expect that it would slightly out damage your gravity well. And the fact that you can use those together is just perfect. So that's really good. So combined Gravity Well and Subspace Vortex, that combined did, 3,200 DPS. So that's a pretty significant contributor to from exotic damage. And the rest of these here, Plasma Torpedo Spread did 1,500 DPS. As you can see, the Plasma Cloud from the torpedoes did a lot more than the torpedoes themselves. So... this next one, fire at will 1s, and particle emission, the actual torpedo itself. Plasma fires did a little bit. Inhibiting deflector doesn't do a whole lot. The Tetron Cascade didn't do a whole lot. And then the Gravity Well 1, this is actually from my duty officer that I have slotted that will proc additional gravity wells. That also doesn't do a whole lot. But those are nice for the extra pull-in that you get more than the damage. All right, so that is the breakdown. So I'm quite happy with it. That Subspace Vortex definitely performs right up there with Gravity Well. Slightly edges it out, I think. If I had gotten that one last, right at the end there on the cube, if I had gotten that one last Subspace Vortex out, I think it would have bumped it up quite a bit there. So that was just unfortunate timing of that ability because it was just coming off cooldown right as the combat ended. So you could probably expect a little bit better damage and on a better run, but overall that went really, really well. All right, let's head back over to Star Trek here, and I'll just give you my closing thoughts. So Subspace Vortex, now with the ability to combo this with Gravity Well, I mean, is a really great addition. I mean, it was really nice for them to make this change in the patch. It's another ability that you can use for your exotic damage, and just being able to combine it with Gravity Well is perfect, because I mean, you always want that gravity well in your exotic damage builds, and sharing a cooldown with that really limits the, really did limit the ability of Subspace Vortex to contribute. So I'm so glad they made this change in the patch. With Subspace Vortex on its own cooldown, it really makes it a viable ability in almost any exotic damage build. So yeah, I definitely recommend this ability going forward. There's no downside. Don't have to worry about like tractor beam repulsors pushing or pulling things out of range. It's much easier to use in conjunction with the gravity well now, and it's just like, extra free damage that you could throw out there, and it's a pretty solid amount of damage as well, right up there with the gravity well itself. So what can I say? It's easy to deploy. It's on its own cooldown now. Does good damage. So definitely no downsides here. I mean, they definitely pick this up and add it to your arsenal. It's a great ability now with the change. All right, everyone. That is my look at Subspace Vortex now with the recent buffs, and yeah. And my conclusion is definitely pick this up. It is an excellent ability now. All right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.